This
feelings of
conference will
being,
now be
trapped
recorded.
at home. Maybe we have feelings of being trapped at home. And it's something that we've all been dealing with. So, a lot of my presentation today has to do with making yourself happy, making yourself healthy, and following your heart in every area that you can. And I really hope that you guys do enjoy it. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I also have subtitles down there at the bottom. And hopefully, um, our volume or our audio will never go out, but just in case. All right. And I'm going to start today with the simplest of things. So you got the beat, right? Where does our heart begin? When does our heart begin to start beating? And the answer to that question, and a lot of people ask that, and a lot of the students that I have, when they are in my classes and maybe they're going to have a baby for the first time, they'll say, hey, Dr. Ide, when does, my baby's heart begin to beat? And the answer there, that the week it begins to beat is actually week 6. So a lot of things that people don't know about pregnancy or they don't really think about. In week 1 and 2, you're pretty much getting ready, which sounds weird and strange. But you're not actually pregnant in that first week or 2 of the time allotted to your pregnancy. Conception typically occurs about 2 weeks after the last menstrual period or the last menstrual cycle. So to calculate the estimated due date, your doctor will count ahead 40 weeks from the start of your last menstrual cycle. And then you have your 3rd week, which is typically your fertilization week, your 4th week, which is your implantation week. And that's just when your cells are rapidly dividing and the egg or the embryo actually implants. In week 5, your hormones begin to increase. And then in week 6, you have that miracle of the heart beginning to beat. So that's really where our journey begins today, is with the heartbeat. Our next slide talks about your heart going on, right? So I think a lot of people don't think about this, and this is basically a part of the physical portion of our presentation today, or the physiology of our presentation today. But a fun fact about your heart is that it beats about 115,000 times a day. So if you could think about that, that's a lot. Your heart is a muscle, and it's doing all of these things really just automatically without you knowing about it. So Celine Dion may have been right when she was talking about your heart going on in the film in the 90s. Your heart also pumps a lot. And to be precise, it pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood every day. And that's why we have our fun little heart working it out in the background there. So your heart does a lot of things for you. And in turn, you want to do things to keep your heart healthy. Some other fun facts about your heart: the average size of the heart is about a fist in an adult. That's about the size of your heart. Again, your heart beats about 115,000 times a day, which I think is miraculous in and of itself. It pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood every day. It's a lot of blood to be pumping. And, it's an we have an electrical system that controls the rhythm of your heart, and that's called your cardiac conduction system. And my last fun little fact that I wanted to let you guys know before we moved on to our next slide is that your heart can continue beating even when it's disconnected from the body. So that's a fun fact. I know that all of us have seen movies growing up and have seen fun shows, or maybe some cartoons where the heart is, beating out of the chest, and you're thinking, well, that's unrealistic. But the truth is the heart can continue to beat even when it's disconnected from your body. So your heart is very miraculous. It does a lot of really wonderful things. You take care of it. It takes care of you. And yes, it is crazy, Laura. It's insane how many things the heart can do and how it's so connected to our mind. One thing that I have always made sure that I do in my lifetime is keep my heart and my mind satisfied. Maybe I'm a little bit worse with the snacking than I am with most other things. But I always say I'm the type of person that follows your heart. I celebrate every holiday. I do the best to make every moment special. And in that way, I'm really able to follow my heart and do the things that really matter. I feel like my heart is more than just a muscle, and I think you guys will too by the end of our presentation. So to help celebrate the heart and the month of love, which is most often associated with our heart, we're going to take a look at Valentine's Day on a whole, Black History Month, which is of course involved in February, and World Kindness Day, which I think is probably the most overlooked day of this month. There's so many fun things going on in this month. In addition to that, just as a side note, we have President's Day, and it is also my birthday coming up this Sunday. So speaking of following your heart, I'm going to follow my heart to something fun on Sunday and hopefully enjoy it. You know, you need that break. You need to de-stress. You need to take time out. You need to do things that you love. I am so grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good to be 20 again. I'm only kidding. I am so grateful that I'm in the position that I am in and that I'm able to do what I do. And the truth of the matter is, you know, when you begin your educational journey as a very small child, we all pick different things that we want to be in hopes that it'll be fun. I think little kiddos say, I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be a veterinarian because I love animals, or I want to be this, or I want to be that. Because in their mind's eye, they're thinking, what could be the most fun thing that I could be? What can be something that I'll really enjoy for the rest of my life? And sometimes we lose that along the way, and we don't see that as we go through life. Thanks, Tara. I appreciate that. I'm seeing all these little pop-ups in the chat, and I want to take an opportunity to say hello to everybody and thank you. It's a good thing I'm not actually getting any older, even though it's my birthday. So happy about that. But anyway, you know, we think about all these fun things when we're kiddos, and somewhere along the way, you know, we just kind of settle. We lose our heart. We lose the connection between our heart and our brain, and we just settle for whatever comes our way. And that stresses us out, right? And it puts stress on our heart and stress on our lives. Well, this really enables us to segue into some people who did not do that, and into some things that did not happen that way. I'm actually going to go forward and then backwards one. Here is a great example. Daniel Hill Williams. So having a heart, literally speaking. And this was who Dr. Williams was. So for those of you who have never heard of Dr. Williams, he was a pioneering African-American heart surgeon. In 1893, he performed the world's first successful open heart surgery. He founded the Providence Hospital, the first interracial hospital in the country. He was the first Black surgeon to be inducted into the American College of Surgeons. He did some really amazing things. And of course, for us here, doing that first open heart surgery in 1893 was just amazing. What I find really interesting about Dr. Williams is that he was the son of a barber. Now, some folks will be like, well, what's so interesting about being a barber? Of course, those of you who may be hairstylists are probably thinking, yes, it's very exciting to be a barber or a hairstylist. But what was so exciting about him being the son of a barber is before we had a lot of rules and regulations and formal education and things of that nature, folks who owned a knife, like a barber, would also, a great deal of the time, be a physician. Again, before our schools came out, before our formalized education came out, students all the time say, hey, well, you know what did they do before we had education or standards, or before we had medical schools? You know, what did folks do? How did folks become doctors? And the truth is, a lot of folks, if you owned a knife, you were a physician. So that's something that, you know, throughout history is super interesting to me. But Dr. Williams really, made it when it came to talking about heart matters. He followed his own heart, quite literally, and he also helped other people with theirs. So he was, and there was a whole bunch of people I was looking at to try to figure out who I really wanted to put in the spotlight today for Black History Month, because there was really a lot of great options. But Dr. Williams really stood out first to me, and he stood out last. So again, really some wonderful history looking back there. Now I'm going to go back a spot. And this is very interesting. I don't know if anybody knows what this plant is, but a lot of folks ask, how do we get that heart shape? How did we come up with, the heart as the organ or the muscle that is known for love? And that's actually a funnier story than a lot of people know. So that iconic heart shape as a symbol of love is traditionally thought to come from the psyllium plant, which was used in ancient history as a form of birth control. So there's the plant, and I have next to it, all you need is love with a question mark, because I think that we associate it with something that was probably not the original intention there. Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about World Kindness Day. Again, this happened a couple days ago at this point, but I really wanted to highlight this. I love World Kindness Day. I think that it's something that we should stick on the calendar and make sure we mention all the time, because being kind and sharing our love and sharing ourselves with other people is really what we need to do, not just when we're in a pandemic that's keeping us apart, but all of the time. So for this portion of the program, I decided to highlight Princess Diana. And what she did was something that took so much courage at the time when she did it. So if you all remember, and I'll give you a brief little history, in the 1980s, in the 1970s, and then in the 1960s, you're looking at sex, drugs, and rock and roll. As we continue through and the 1980s hit, what we're looking at is this transformation. We're coming out of disco, we're going into rock music in the 80s. Everybody's having a good time and hanging out and going out to restaurants and clubs, and everyone's very social with one another. And then the AIDS epidemic hits. So HIV/AIDS comes onto the scene, and everybody is afraid. The first thing you see on the front of the newspapers is that it's a super cancer. It's a retrovirus. It'll get into your body and it'll attack it until you ultimately pass away. It'll attack you until your demise. So people were scared. They didn't want to sit on toilet seats. They didn't want to drink out of other people's glasses. They were afraid to go to restaurants and eat off of forks and knives, not knowing who else ate off of them. So in the midst of all of this worry and all of this stress and all of this angst, when it comes to HIV/AIDS coming onto the scene, people did not want to touch or be near or use the same bathroom as or be in the same vicinity as folks who were diagnosed with HIV and AIDS. And that left them very segmented from the general population. And it left them feeling probably a lot like we feel now. Like you just don't have anyone there. It just very separated, which was horrible. So in April of 1987, Princess Diana opened the UK's first purpose-built HIV/AIDS unit that exclusively cared for patients that were infected with the virus. In front of all of the world, in front of the media, Princess Diana shook the hand of a man who was suffering from HIV. And with that one single act of kindness, she helped to break the stigma that you would be able to get this virus from other people. So if you look at that, I think the picture is so powerful. She literally reached out and touched someone's hand and said, I'm not afraid. This is not how you contract this illness. And, we need to treat these people better. We need to treat these people like human beings. We need to treat these people with the utmost respect. And we need to start doing it now. So that leads us to ask, if there's so much kindness in the world and so many good things happen, why do we have broken hearts? And when we say broken hearts, do we physically mean broken hearts, or is that something that we just came up with? So our next slide is a look at broken heart syndrome. So a lot of people will say, well, when you're talking about broken hearts, you don't really mean, your heart physically breaking or a physical condition. You just mean, emotionally you've been hurt or emotionally something bad has happened. But actually it is possible to have a broken heart, and this is called broken heart syndrome. And you could have similar symptoms to what a heart attack might look like. So people are actually misguided and misled when it comes to that, because it's something that you can actually get. So the difference is that a heart attack, or the difference from a heart attack and broken heart syndrome, is the rush of hormones that come over. So people often mistake the symptoms as the symptoms are very closely related. But broken heart syndrome is a temporary heart condition that's often brought on by stress, stressful situations, or extreme conditions. And when you think about it, geez, how often do we have stress, right? And stress can be connected to the physical, it can be connected to the emotional, it could be connected to the mental, and all of those things can be connected all together. So, the condition can be triggered by a serious physical illness, by a surgery, but it could also be triggered by an emotion. So as we look at this and as we think about this, a lot of people say, geez, that's hard to believe that that's actually realistic, but it is. It could also be called cardiomyopathy, and it also goes by a couple other names. But really, broken heart syndrome is our main one. People who get this have, they may have maybe a very sudden chest pain, or, they're thinking that they have a heart attack. So that's why it does get confused, because it does come on all of a sudden. It affects just one part of your heart, though. So it temporarily disrupts your heart's normal pumping function. The rest of the heart continues to do its normal everyday thing. Or in some cases, it may have more forceful contractions, but typically it just continues to function normally. So the symptoms are treatable, and the condition usually reverses itself within a couple days or a couple of weeks. Of course, that being not the prime thing to happen to someone for a couple of weeks. But with broken heart syndrome, you may also have a shortness of breath. So people really get confused with that, and they think they're having a heart attack. So what's the cause? And I said, it could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be almost anything. And that's the truth. So the exact cause of broken heart syndrome is completely unclear. And that's, I think, where we got the notion of, when you have a broken heart or your heart breaks so badly, and we're more so talking about emotional, heartbreaks, that you could almost feel it physically. I guess we can't totally rule it out because the cause is unclear, but it's thought to be a surge, again, of stress hormones, such as adrenaline, that might temporarily damage the hearts of some people. So we don't really know how that works. We don't really know how that surge of hormones may actually cause that. But what we do know is that it does cause that temporary constriction of the larger small arteries of the heart, and that plays a role in broken heart syndrome. So just a little statistical information there for you. In the last 6 months after a spouse's death, odds of mortality may be up to 70% higher than the general public. Women are more likely to experience broken heart syndrome. And broken heart syndrome can be misdiagnosed as a heart attack without the telltale evidence of blocked arteries. So if a heart can be opened and we can do surgery on it, and if a heart can be completely separate from the body, and the question is asked, can it also be broken? Unfortunately, the answer to that is yes. And stress plays a big part in that. So how do we avoid heart disease and a broken heart? Well, here's some tips. Eat healthy, stay active, stay at a healthy weight. And that's probably one that I myself even struggle with. It's funny because you look at Valentine's Day and you see all these wonderful little treats. And I have probably one of the best mother-in-laws in the world. And I hope she's watching this, or she will later. And she sent me chocolate-covered strawberries for my birthday, and I received them early, so it was kind of a Valentine's Day birthday gift. And I thought, ooh, chocolate-covered strawberries, right? So is it always easy to stay a healthy weight? Not necessarily. So that one's a little bit more difficult for all of us. But if you look at all of these tips and you combine them and you try for each one, even though you slip up here and there, you should come out with a positive result. So stay at a healthy weight, quit smoking, and stay away from secondhand smoke. Also, and I don't have it listed here, but stay away from environmental dangers, environmental smoke. When I look back on how many times I toasted marshmallows or warmed my feet by an open fire outside, And I didn't think to myself, the wind is blowing in my direction and I'm breathing in what's burning in the fire pit or what's burning by the fireplace, and that is smoke inhalation. It's not cigarette smoke inhalation, but it is environmental smoke inhalation. So it's just one of those things we don't think of, and ways to stay healthy and make sure that everything that we're taking into our body is accounted for. Control your cholesterol and blood pressure, right? We know that that's important. There's a good cholesterol, there's a bad cholesterol, and our blood pressure, of course, matters because that is directly connected with our heart. Drink alcohol only in moderation. My big tip, and I had to put big tip right next to it, manage stress, right? That might be the hardest one. I might take it back. I may say that this might be the hardest one to manage. But I'm going to give you tips on how to manage your stress in particular in just a minute. Find things you love and do those things all the time. And I think this is one of the most important things. I garden, for example. If you asked me 15, 20 years ago if I was going to garden, I probably would have told you no. And now it's one of my biggest stress relievers. If I have a stressful day, if I have a very full day, if I have a day that was really action-packed and I want to relax, I will actually throw on my gardening gloves, go outside, and pull some weeds or plant some flowers and garden. So for me, that's really a great tool to de-stress, be outside, feel the sunshine, feel the breeze, and just take a moment for me. And I think that's what a lot of people miss, is that moment for them. Particularly now, we're surrounded by so many people, kiddos, husbands, wives, spouses, partners, family members, and we're all home. We're home together all of the time. Our kiddos are doing virtual schooling, or if they were, maybe they're back now, but I know a lot are still doing virtual schooling. And that can be stressful. All of a sudden, your life changed in an instant. And that itself can cause stress. So now more than ever, it's important to find the things you love and do those things all of the time. And my last tip here is love what you do and do what you love. And that one can be difficult. I think that sometimes we come into our adulthood or our adult age, or we come of adult age, and those dreams that we had as children, those ideas, those ways to make ourselves happy and to keep ourselves happy and dreaming and thinking about the future and all of those wonderful things we're going to do, they kind of go away when life hits you and when bills hit you and when things come about. We kind of forget about that kind of stuff. We kind of forget to remind ourselves, what is it that we love? What is it that we want to do? Who is it that we want to serve? What role do we want to play in our community? And that's really one of the most important things for me, is remaining a part of the community and connecting with people. If you asked me when I was a small child, what my role was going to be in this world, I would come up with a whole bunch of different stuff. But when I was a very small child, even then, I said, I think I want to be a teacher, to be a professor, to be with people, to teach people things, to help people to understand things. And when you're little, that could be a very good goal. But as I got older and as I went to college and continued my education, I really discovered that even though I came up with this idea as a very small child, that was the idea. That's what I wanted to do. And I'm so lucky that I'm afforded that opportunity every day, because it's really the connection with the students and the community that keeps me happy and keeps me loving what I do. So my goal, my whole goal in my life, is to help other people to reach that same goal. So what is your goal? How are you going to get there? Do you need help getting there? And that's really a big part of my community role and what I do for other people. And I love that. There's nothing better than that in my eyes. So, if you're searching for answers, if you're searching for, how to keep yourself healthy and how to keep yourself happy and how to find your own place in the community, how do you do that? Well, you have to know where to go to find the answers. So if you're looking for answers to health and exercises and things of that nature, the YMCA is a great place to go. I can remember going to the YMCA when I was young, and our parents would drop us off, earlier on a Saturday, and we would play basketball and we would swim and we would do all of these fun things. And at the end of the day, your parents would pick you back up. And when you're young, you don't think about it as exercise, right? You just don't. You think about it as fun. This is just fun. And when you live in northeastern Pennsylvania, which is, I think, getting pummeled with snow right now because it's winter, and that's typically what happens with them. But when you think about northeastern Pennsylvania and how cold it is in the winter, you don't really have a lot of options for outdoor activities unless you're going to go skiing every day. So when we were young, the YMCA was just one of our places that we would go to have fun, to get away, to swim in the winter, which would have been unheard of in northeastern Pennsylvania if we didn't have that. As I grew older and as I became more educated and as I progressed in my career, I always kept the YMCA as part of my life. And even today, when I'm speaking to students about health and exercise and programs and community programs, I always go back to the YMCA website because they just have so much to offer us. So it is a really great place, to find those health and exercise questions and answers. And they also have a great section on the food you eat and how it affects your blood flow through your heart and your arteries, of course. And then it talks about a high-fat diet, which, of course, is a no-no, and it really gives us some great information that is super specific about how we can stay healthy. So I really do appreciate everything that the YMCA has to do when they go ahead and put that stuff up on their website. It's a great resource. So, how do we all make it through? How do we push through? How do we keep going? What do we do? And I love this line. I'm singing it to myself as I'm seeing it come up on my PowerPoint. We get by with a little help from our friends, right? So when I was looking through all of my material and when I was looking through, what I wanted to say and what message I wanted to come across, I really wanted to say, pick what you want to do and make sure that what you chose is not going to contribute again to that stress level. The last thing you want to do is sacrifice yourself physiologically, mentally, physically for your job. That is going to cause you to not love it, right? To not love it. So how do you avoid that? What do you do? How do you know which job would be stressful and what job wouldn't be? And there's an easy answer to that. Research. Research everything, every possibility that you have when you're looking at, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go with my life? How do I make this fun and interesting? The best answer is to research it. So in my research recently, I came across, I should say, the 16 low-stress jobs, and this was as of June of last year, of 2020. And our healthcare management positions made it. They made the cut. And again, I'm the program director for healthcare management at South University in Virginia Beach. And my students who go through my program, and we're non-clinical, right? So we're not necessarily in the thick of things. We're not necessarily, serving the patients individually or coming into contact with them. We're very administrative. So we do a ton of different things. And our positions are extraordinarily important because we're the folks behind the scenes that keep the business, the organization, the hospital system, the nursing homes, we keep them running, we keep them going. So when I was on, online just researching and looking for what everyone else was listing, I found, for example, a medical records technician. And I found this neat little picture of someone that's in the military doing that position for our military, and also some other folks doing their position in different settings. In an office setting, the other fellow at the bottom there is in an actual physical medical records room. So The takeaway is we can find things that are going to make us happy and stress free. Well, low stress, I guess I should say, because stress free is kind of impossible. But what do you want to do? What do you really want to do? And how are you going to get there? I have to turn to Walt Disney. If you can dream it, you can do it. And that is probably the truest thing that I have ever heard. And one of the best quotes that I've ever heard. If you can dream it, you can do it. A lot of my students will come into classes and they'll say, oh, well, it's easy for you to say. Look at what you do. You're already there. You've made it. And what I remind people of, and what I remind my students of all the time, is that I was you just a very short period of time ago. But I dreamed it. I went through the steps to become it, and ultimately I did it. But the first thing you have to do is you have to dream it. You have to decide. You have to think, what is going to make me the most happy? What career am I going to have that is going to make me get up in the morning and say, I want to go to work. I love my job. I love serving my community. I love what I do, right? And that's a question that's hard to answer. So that may take you a little bit of time, a little bit of soul searching, and maybe a little bit of heart. But once you find it and you decide what you want to do, there's not going to be anything that stands in your way. You're going to be able to accomplish and achieve that. So love what you do, be who you are, and exist in the corporate culture you want. And what I'm referring to when I say corporate culture is, a part of choosing your career is choosing a place that you want to be, choosing an organization that has a mission and a vision that you believe in, that has values, that has ethics, and having all of these things that you actually believe in. I'm very lucky in my job position now because I really found a place that I enjoy and that gives me that corporate culture and that support system, apart from my great experience with my students and apart from everything else. I'm very lucky to have that. I was able to dream it. I was able to do it. If you can dream it, you can do it. So as you're thinking about what you want to do and where you want to go, keep that in mind. Where do I want to work? What values do I hold dear that are going to contribute to me really loving what I do? And this slide is interesting because I have a woman looking into a crystal ball. Follow your heart and your head will come along for the ride. So what does that mean? A lot of the time we don't do something. And we don't do something because we say, well, I don't really know if that's practical, or don't know if I'm going to have the time to do that. Oh, I don't know if I have the energy. I don't know if I'll ever make it through. And a lot of the time when I have a student that's incoming, maybe for our bachelor's program or a master's program, they say, Doctor, I just don't really know if I'm going to have the time to do this. I thought it was a good idea to sign up, but now that I'm looking at the work, it just seems like a lot of work, and I just don't know if I want to do it. I also have taught at the community colleges around the area, and those students say the same thing. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm smart enough. I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to be. And I always tell them, well, you don't have a crystal ball, and my crystal ball is at the repair shop. So why don't you just try it and see? Why don't you just give it a shot? What's your heart telling you to do? Is your heart telling you that you want to be here? Something told you to come here and to do this and to try it out. So give it a shot and see what you can do. And what I have found is that a lot of folks, once they try something, once they follow their heart, once they combine their mind with their heart, their emotions with their mental cognition, they're able to really power through and reach their goal a whole lot easier. So if it was your heart or your head that led you here today, I'm very glad you came. Again, my name is Dr. Dawn Ide, and I'm the Program Director for Healthcare Management, Business, Information Technology, and Leadership Programs at South University in Virginia Beach, Virginia. What I have there for you is my cell phone number, 757-771-4642. And I'm going to tell you a little piece of information that you probably will not get from many other presenters or from many other speakers. That number is now yours. You can call it, you can text it, you can email me at dide@southuniversity.edu. Any questions that you have. Once I make a contact with folks, once I'm a connection for you, I'm always going to be a connection. And it doesn't matter if you were a student, not a student, if you were someone that came to a presentation that I did, etc. One of the things that I love to do and the way that I like to extend my heart is by connecting with people. So if you have any questions, concerns, or anything else, please feel free to reach out to me. Also, we're doing virtual classes at South University in Virginia Beach. So if you would like to join us for finishing your bachelor's degree or getting started with your bachelor's degree or master's program, you can do that virtually now. In the wake of COVID, we would love to connect with you, and we would love to keep you going. Don't stop, move forward, create and get to that career you want to be in. And if you need anything in the future, please let me know. I want you guys to have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day, wonderful rest of your month. And again, I'm always here for you, so thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Don.
Awesome. We couldn't hear you, Laura. Thank you so much, Dr. Ide, for that energized. Your presentation was such a great presentation with a lot of energy, a lot of facts on how we can maintain a healthy heart emotionally and holistically. So I'm so excited about that. I thank each and every one of you that has taken the time out of your busy schedules to be with us this evening for this second workshop under the series that we entitled To Inform, Educate, and to Empower. So I am so excited. I'm going to turn it over to you, Laura. I'm Linda Isaac, the Director of Community Outreach and Development with South University. My information is on the side, as you see that I have been chatting throughout the presentation. Please give me a call if you have any questions about our programs that we offer here at the Virginia Beach campus. If you want to learn more about how your employer can participate in our corporate partner education partnership program, I would love to hear from you. Over to you, Laura. Thank you. Still can't hear you. I think she's having technical difficulties. We still can't hear you, so I'll go ahead and close out. Laura, thank you so much to you and the YMCA for partnering with South University and for allowing us to be a part of the YMCA family. For those of you who are not aware, if you are a member of the YMCA, you all receive a savings off of your tuition for taking classes here at our university. So please, if you want to learn anything else about any of our programs and that savings, feel free to give me a call. Thank you so much. Our campus director is here. So since Dr. Johnson is here, why don't you say hello to our guests on this evening?
Do I have to be as energetic as Don was?
Yes.
Don with a W. Thank you all. Laura, thanks for this great partnership and for inviting us in, and everybody else. And I will keep it short and say thank you all very much.
Thank you. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.